Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 2.5 podcast, where we watch 2.5 episodes of 2.5 Men. I'm your host, Sweaty Reed.
And I'm your co-host, actually Edgy.
So, the last episode was wild. I do want to say before anything that Big Six did win his battle royale in the last game that he played in that podcast.
He beat everybody, and nobody expected it from him.
No,
I think he was AFK for a minute, but he still pulled it together. So, can we get a W in the chat?
Sadly, we stopped the audio recording before he got the victory royale because we were done with the episode. But I just wanted to point that out before we started this episode. Congratulations, Big Six. A week ago, you won a victory royale. So now we're at episode 6. And man, I don't know. I thought that this episode is exactly what I was expecting 2.5 Men to be.
Yeah, it starts getting really I feel like maybe like the next episode is a little bit more, but they definitely start going into Charlie's degeneracy. And you know, he's shedding the wholesome uncle. That's his only kind of role. Now he's coming back with that bachelor
lifestyle, like teaching Jake not to answer the phone because women might be there, you know.
Right.
And he just doesn't do that. He doesn't respond to women on calls.
He would love Snapchat because it would be so easy for him to block women.
I was literally thinking about that, about how this episode would be great for the modern times because people just don't answer each other nowadays. And
you just text, you don't call each other. That's so taboo. If you don't even give them your phone number to begin with. You give them something you can block them on.
Right. It's crazy. It's really interesting because like Charlie's stuff is like way more normalized than it was back then. You know, not that I don't see the point in Charlie being able to like dump these women because, for example, is she not in this episode? Rose is in this episode, right?
Right.
And like that's a great example of someone that like, yeah, I wouldn't return her calls because she just keeps on breaking and entering my house.
I think she doesn't come back till the next episode, but yeah, she is a great example of like a reason why you
like
don't
Charlie
give somebody your address.
Yeah. Which is so funny. Well, that's the thing. Nowadays, we don't have like people that can stalk us from our address. They just dox us online.
Oh yeah, that's kind of worse.
Yeah, it is. But I guess I don't know. It seems friendly. I think Rose is a fine stalker. Like,
imagine how peaceful it must have been in the early 2000s when you didn't like.
Yeah, you only had one obsessed
computer.
weirdo, except like 1,000 obsessed weirdos with 1,000 hours. You know, it's crazy.
Sorry, getting my cough in. But yes, and you don't have to worry about people like spamming you on your cell phone or on Facebook. And, you know, I mean, I got really textually harassed by an ex-boyfriend when I was in middle school. And, you know, I think if I didn't have a cell phone during that time, my life would have been so much more peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. I relate to Charlie.
But that's the whole entire crux of the episode, and Alan complains about it to Charlie, like, hey, I don't want Jake to have these kind of thoughts about women. Like, you can just dump them and just, like, forget about them if you don't like them anymore. And Charlie's like, whatever, he needs to, like, learn that, I guess. Or he needs to do that in my house, because that's how it goes with me. And then, their mom, Evelyn, which I didn't know her name until... This is like a great episode to introduce her name, though, because it's such a funny joke later on. But the episode, she comes over, she has this new boyfriend, and she's like, oh, you have to come over and, like, have dinner with him.
And, you know, obviously, Charlie and Alan are less than interested, because why would they want to meet their mom's boyfriend?
So yeah,
and
it does that BoJack Horseman's like joke in Horsing Around, where Alan and Charlie are like, oh, we're definitely not going. Oh yeah, we're definitely not going. And then it transitions to them being like, we're only gonna stay a little bit. We're not gonna stay that long.
And then they stay the entire night. But things get really interesting when they actually get there and meet the new guy.
Because that new guy's daughter is Charlie's one of Charlie's many ex-lovers or dates.
And she was definitely one of the ones that he ghosted and didn't really want to talk to and kind of dumped in a shitty way. And she actually planned the whole thing, that she was going to meet up with them and confront Charlie in person, since I guess he can't avoid her at his mother's dinner. And his mom is really insistent on not letting her boyfriend find out about it, but
it's
at the
inevitable. Yeah, because this woman was ready to throw water at Charlie no matter what. I think like it's weird. It's really awkward. So yeah, that's what happens, is that she gets really mad at him because he says something like, you're not, I said that you were special, that doesn't mean you were unique. And that's like, that's terrible to say. So
that's
he
really mean.
Yeah, you deservedly like get water thrown at you, but she was wanting it. That was her whole entire intent. So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of cruel to the father and such.
Yeah, that's true. It's cruel to put other people through it, but also like, Charlie's pretty shitty to women.
Yes.
And I think this.
Yeah, well, that's
really
the whole
entire.
Yeah, exactly.
At least you get the beginning of seeing how the scope, I guess, of how terrible he is. Because I mean, like, I understand it's really petty and shitty for her to come and ruin his mom's dinner party and ruin her relationship potentially, but it's also like, he started with the cruelty first. He can't break up with a woman in a normal way. He can't give them the kindness of closure within the relationship, but so I mean, I don't know. I think he's pretty shitty for all.
Yeah, the episode completely transitions away from Charlie being a shitty asshole to Evelyn being dumped by her boyfriend, which like Charlie thinks that it's his fault, but it's definitely not his fault, and it's funny how Evelyn calls him out for it.
Oh yeah, because her boyfriend, when he broke up with her, he didn't call her and give her any closure either, and she gets to really express her feelings of how deeply that hurt her at the end to Charlie, and I think that makes him realize, well, yeah, maybe it is pretty shitty.
Yeah. I think it's like a really great story about why you should like tell your
you should have hard conversations that you don't want to have. Like, obviously it sucks to break up with somebody, it sucks to tell somebody that you don't want to see them anymore, but getting ghosted really hurts too. There's only a few occasions where it's okay, as if it's like Rose the stalker,
right?
Or if you have had the closure and they keep contacting you, obviously. And then I don't know, after that there's always special occasions for stuff, but it's more emotionally mature to actually confront them.
But yeah, I think it's a great episode in that sense, because it really wraps around that whole entire subject of ghosting and not telling people or not answering calls in general.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually one of those episodes where it is actually really consistent from the beginning to end, unlike our half episode from
one
last
episode ago.
Time.
Yeah. Right.
That one was definitely interesting.
Yeah, because that one was completely set in half. This one was consistently always in sight. Like, you could probably see the beginning, middle, and end if you understood the theme of the episode, which is answering a call back from your significant other or lover or date.
Yeah.
Answer them, whether or not you want to do anything with them. Just let them know. I guess the ending of the episode is really nice because Charlie reconciles, and I feel like Charlie is like the figure for all of the men who have not answered their calls back. And he's like, I really, like, despite it all, I love you. And Evelyn already decides, oh, well, then I'm just going to go home because she's been living with them to, like, cope with the fact that she's alone.
Yeah, the breakup and everything just to get some comfort. And she's very hard to comfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this whole entire bit where Jake is, like, the only one that's talking to her. And he's like, I don't know what I'm fucking doing.
He's like, what am I even supposed to say, man?
But Charlie says he loves Evelyn, which is like really strange because he hates his mom. Like and then she's like, oh, well, I'm gonna leave now. I'm gonna leave in the middle of the night. I'm gonna go back home. And Charlie's like, why are you leaving now? And she says, because you said that you love me, and after that you're just gonna screw it up.
Yeah, that was pretty funny because she was right, probably.
Yeah. But that's the end of the episode. I guess she does karaoke. She does like a few piano numbers that they do to cope.
Oh yeah, and she just keeps singing "These Boots Are Made for Walking" over and over again.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
I guess now we can go to episode 7. Which is also another episode that I thought was like this is like very 2.5 Men. I think this is like
the real
2.5 Men gritty sexual comedy shit.
Yeah, because this is when like they start introducing Jake, I guess, to like the world of women, and Uncle Charlie, expands his whole view on how women are objects.
Yeah,
that was joke. Very big. I mean, it's a joke, but it was also a very big focus. Was the discussion versus are women sex objects? Alan is saying no, they're not sex objects, and Charlie Sheen's like, well, they worked really hard to be sexualized and objectified.
Yeah, right. That was like in the middle of the episode, but the beginning of the episode has this girl coming into the house, and we all assumed that like Charlie had sex with her like earlier, that like in a previous part. And Jake sees her in the middle of the morning while he's eating breakfast, and she like is trying to reach for paper towels, and she shows her ass to Jake, and Jake is like, wow. Holy shit.
Women,
that's crazy. They exist. So that's really the kickoff of the episode, is the fact that like Jake sees ass, and Alan sees Jake sees ass, and he gets mad at Charlie for inviting a woman over to show her ass. And Charlie's like, oh, this isn't like a girl that like I've had sex with. This is just a girl I invite over so she can surf at my beachfront because I don't really care.
And then she showers at his house.
Yes.
That's the main thing, is she showers at his house after she surfs.
Yeah, and so it's like just like a small acquaintance friend thing. It's not anything serious.
And he is trying to lay.
Yeah, well, he's like wants her, but like it's Charlie Sheen, so he'll go after anyone that's hot.
And this seeing of the butt, Jake seeing the butt, starts to spur an obsession with looking at girls, and he finds like a Sports Illustrated magazine and asks where Cancun is. Talking about Cancun.
Yeah.
And
Sports Illustrated. Yeah, holding a Sports Illustrated magazine, and that's where the real like, that's the, I guess it's like a comedic bit starts where Alan tries to explain to Jake, like, the women on Sports Illustrated are, like, manufactured to look this pleasing. They aren't actually, like, it's degrading to them. They're not actually being taken seriously. They're just being used for their bodies. And Charlie's like, well, what's wrong with that? They put a lot of work into making themselves look like sex objects.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, and it's like, well, it's very, it's very early 2000s. And I guess there's not really any good answer to that kind of stuff, in my opinion, sometimes, because I feel like...
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. You can't save women from that situation while also allowing them to have autonomy. Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, it's more like when you comment on it and say, like, well, it's all manufactured, which is true because of Photoshop and stuff, but also, like, they do in some way choose it, but also there's some things where it's very there's a lot of propaganda, I feel like, to do kind of sexual work or to do very sexy modeling or OnlyFans and all that kind of stuff, where I feel like it's thrust onto young women sometimes, where it's seen as the easier option or the best option because you don't have to do a lot of stuff, but you do have to do a lot of stuff at the same time. You're right. Well, like, especially nowadays, amateur work is, like, so much more different than Sports Illustrated. That was, like, a huge... Nowadays, OnlyFans people and such have to be their own marketing team and such.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And they gotta go further, I feel like, even Sports...
Yeah, Sports Illustrated, like, we're lucky that Jake had Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, that maybe
like,
getting on a computer and looking at images.
Like, if the Half Man was in 2025, like, he'd be on Twitter and finding ass cheeks. It's just easy.
True. He can find a lot more than ass cheeks on Twitter.
Well, yeah, right, but it's just funny that you can get the same thing Jake was looking at right now on your phone, and a kid could do that. It's awful. But
terrible.
But this is an episode that's trying to, like, teach Jake not to be in that kind of sense, and it fails to, which is the funny part.
Well, I mean, I don't think Charlie's trying to do anything.
Charlie's just trying to have fun with a kid. That's all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and he's definitely encouraging it.
Yes, it's not good, but, like, well, it's a funny bit. Like, in the middle of the episode, they're looking over their deck, and Charlie and Jake are looking, and their comment, like, Jake is like, real, fake, on, like, the women's breasts, which, like, first of all, I mean, it's so weird.
It's so bad. It's such a bad thing to teach a kid, is to judge people's bodies like that, in my opinion.
It's so awkward. I think the joke is super funny for the show, though, because the episode ends with him in a movie theater doing that with the actresses in the film.
And that's, like, right next to his mom.
Right next
and
to
he's like, who does she think she's fooling with those? And it's like, all right, come on, judgmental.
Yeah,
all right,
kid, all right, 10-year-old.
Step off.
Yeah. Well, in the middle of the episode, Judith is also in it, and it's kind of funny because Judith is having a mental breakdown about her life, and she confronts Charlie about it, and Charlie is exactly how I would respond to anyone confronting me about their situation.
Oh yeah, this is actually, you know what, Judith's conversation with Charlie throughout different, like, because she basically just goes and vents.
Yeah,
it's such a good part, and it's funny, but it mimics real life between me and Reed. Like, when I was going through some tough stuff, I would go to Reed and I would cry about my problems, and he'd be like, I understand. I understand. He didn't want to do it, but I forced him to because he's my friend. But That's exactly how you probably responded in that situation.
It's the only way that you should be able to respond, because there's nothing I can say that would like I all I can say is I understand, because what do you want me to do?
I understand.
I understand.
He did it with a funny voice after a while. He'd be like,
Yeah,
I
at some point,
understand."
it was like, it was the rule of threes taken too far, but it was funny anyways.
It was really funny.
Because at some point, you know, it is just the only answer that Charlie Sheen could give that would be correct.
And I feel like that's all Judith wanted, was somebody that would
be like, I understand, because Alan is such a dick.
He wants to tell Judith. He's like, you know, that guy that instead of just listening when his wife vents about stuff, he has to come up with a solution for every single thing. And it's like, I don't want you to come up with a solution for me. I don't want you to micromanage it. I just need you to listen. And then when I start to think of ideas, you help me out. You know what I mean? I don't feel like that's a lot to ask. She just wanted somebody that would listen the whole way through.
Yeah, and Alan is just not that guy.
No, he's so nitpicky.
Yeah, and that's how the episode continues, where Judith, instead of using Charlie, uses the surfer girl.
Oh, yeah, because the surfer girl, she's like, Charlie, you can never understand. I have issues with my dad, too. And then they start talking about it, and they totally ditch Charlie when Charlie was trying to, you know, get with the surfer lady. Here's her butt coming up. I don't know.
Yeah, there it is. Woo! Yeah, you see that face of it.
That's a changed man.
No, but the episode continues, like Alan sees Judith and Sydney, that's her name, the surfer girl, Sydney, surfing together, and he like gets really scared because Judith is gender confused, and so he's like, oh, they're definitely banging, because, you know, he spends all of his life with Charlie now.
Right.
And so Charlie convinces Alan that maybe this is a good thing, that she's exploring these things, but in the wrong way. Instead of surfing, instead of like saying, oh, I'm so happy that you're learning surfing, he thinks that's a sexual thing, which she doesn't, which she like is like, that's fucking gross. Like, why do you think I would like get into a relationship with a woman after I just left a marriage of 14 years? And then he points at Charlie, and I thought it was very funny.
Oh yeah, because he's blaming him, and then that's when they were being gross on the deck, looking at boobs.
Right.
Just proving
more
his
that
point.
Yeah, Charlie is the fault of all of this. It's like, why would I think these things? Oh, it's because the sex haver here told me so. Or, I mean, like, it was kind of Alan's fault first for thinking about it, but that's just because he's around this motherfucker. And so it's just gonna, I think, like, yeah, some of Charlie's bad ideas are gonna rub off on Alan as much as they do with Jake. Obviously, they did with Jake.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, but it's also, I feel like, because they had a lot of chemistry. The two ladies did actually like hit it off like crazy.
Yeah,
so, and they were talking about having dinner together.
Well,
and
Judith was like feeling her up, and I kind of get that, but like, man, you just gotta.
Oh yeah, that's true. It was a little, you know.
It was obviously it was obviously enough for Judith to be like, I'm not sleeping with her, you dumbass. Like, it was obviously enough for him to be like, yeah, I fucked up. That's definitely not what happened. I guess that's the end of the episode, though, is Jake being able to tell the difference between real and fake boobs, which
life skill, I guess.
I guess I feel like it would get harder for him because, you know, breast surgery has been so much better over the decades.
Yeah, I don't feel like.
Which I think I think that kind of dates the episode, because.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that's the episode. Next one, we're at 8.5. Eight and a half is so interesting because it's not gonna be like the last episode that we had, where in the half episode where we watched one half and we thought like, oh, it would be a whole episode of like talking about Porky, and like maybe Jake comes back and Alan and him has a heart to heart. And then the next episode is like a taxi episode where they're mostly inside a car. But this episode seems like it's gonna all be in one setting or one focus, which is Jake's class and Jake's musical that Charlie is forced into by Alan and Judith.
Yeah, he gets tricked into it, and then he gets upset, obviously, because he gets tricked into being around children all day. And Alan's like, don't you like kids? And Charlie's like, well, I like Jake, but I don't like strangers' kids because they're all sticky.
Uh-huh.
And they do tantrums. I agree with Charlie. Personally, base Charlie take.
Right, yeah. I mean, kids suck. It's only good if it's like the kid you know.
If that.
Like, sometimes the kid that you know also sucks. But Jake is cool. But I wouldn't want to deal with his class. So anyways, they have to make a musical, and Alan uses it as like a way to get back with his wife, because he's still on that. It's been 8 episodes, man. Move on.
I know, literally, like, because she's pretty over the relationship, and through our time, half episode watching it, he does receive divorce papers from her.
Mm-hmm.
So this journey of trying to get her back is starting to prove futile. Because he's trying to get her back, but he's not changing anything about himself to get her back.
And one of the worst things about it is that I think Alan's persistence is like what causes Jake in the episode to be like, I think my mom and dad are gonna get back together, because Alan's working really hard, but obviously Judith is not.
As she's not receptive, I think she's doing her grieving.
Uh-huh.
And I think having time away from Alan probably is realizing that it's like a big relief to not have him. I feel like it would be a lot of work having a guy like Alan just around me all the time. Somebody who is just on you the way that he's on Judith. Like, and I think sometimes that's like a blind spot for guys when they get divorced out of quote unquote nowhere. Because I don't ever think it's really out of nowhere. She was probably giving signs for a while that she was no longer interested, and then he's like, oh, it's just so sudden, but I'm gonna keep trying and being myself. Like, obviously being yourself isn't what she wants.
Yeah, and so that's how the half episode ends, is that they go back to the school where Judith is like organizing the musical, and Alan is like, hey, you sent me divorce papers during this moment? What the fuck? And she's like, whoops, I gotta take this. And Charlie's left with kids. And so I think that Charlie is gonna, most of the episode, I think Charlie is going to have to deal with the kids most of the episode and does all of the musical by himself, while Alan and Judith fuck off.
Yeah, they just go and fight, and Judith has to be like, I just can't be with you anymore.
Yeah, maybe this is the episode where Alan like realizes that it's not happening, and even Jake. I think Jake might even have a moment where he's like, I've realized that like my parents are really, they fucked themselves over with this marriage. They're not getting back together, and Charlie has to like help him cope with that.
Yeah, and just be super dad, I guess, for the
be the real dad that Alan was supposed to be. Anyways, yeah, I think that's the end of. I think that's what's gonna happen. I can't wait to see that.
Can't wait to see how it comes out. Can't wait to see Alan get divorced in real time, 4K HD.
Thank you all for listening to this episode. We just recorded right after the second episode was published. So hopefully that gets 15 or so views, and then this one.
Well, we got 17 last time, so it'd be really cool if we got like 18.
Yeah, right. If we can get 18 views on this episode.
18 views on this episode and 4 comments. That would be crazy.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be so cool. I love the comments on the last episode, on the first I guess it's the first episode.
Yes,
it's not even the last one.
No.
But the first episode, the comments made me laugh really hard. So if you left a comment, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all. You all have a great bye.